So I came across this post in the parenting subreddit, and she's talking about daycare costs. She says daycare costs and financial ruin. She puts LOL, but this is not funny. This is some of the things that need to be addressed. In today's discourse, we've been talking about the birth rate, the economy, and all of that. The birth rate needs to continue to plummet to hell. And this is one of the reasons because childcare costs, return to office, many different things that are trying to force people out of the workplace, but also how do you force people out the workplace and want people to have babies? Like it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't compute. Let's get into the post real quick though. She says, just came here to say that $1,215 per month for one child in full time daycare is devastating me financially. I won't get into the details, but I am self employed as a therapist. We make decent money, my husband and I, but with the ridiculous self employment tax and daycare costs, groceries, etc., I want to rip my hair out. We live in Washington state, and the cost of things have gone up astronomically since COVID. I live here and never in a million years thought it would be like this. Hashtag depressing. I really don't know how anyone else is making it. I can't afford to stay home either. It makes me regret having a kid, and I love him to pieces. People shouldn't have to feel like this. Does this get any better once they're in kindergarten? I know the reality of our country, but sheesh. And also, women talking about this in the public square will help the birth rate continue to plummet to hell because other women see the stress and the realities that becoming a mother is in today's current climate. And they'll be like, this is not a good time. I'm barely surviving. People know that they're barely surviving. So why would you add this to it? And this is just the daycare. This is not talking about the whole cost of food, clothing, because they grow out of stuff really quickly, things that could get broken, the furniture that you have to replace, the fact that you need different clothes because for different climates, and then they grow out of stuff like that. It's just wild how much money it costs. Extracurriculars, if you periodically want to go out and go to the movies and how expensive that is these days. So many things need to be addressed, and the costs are so high everywhere you go. It's just very challenging to even fathom. And for the people that are like mid 20s right now, that are just barely out of college and trying to get established, you're going to be looking, should I be starting a family? Should I be like leveling up because of this economy? There's no wonder that the birth rate is plummeting. Yale Go Duck says, daycare is our biggest expense outside of our mortgage. Absolutely nuts. Depending on when your kid was born, you might be able to take advantage of the Young Fives program, which essentially gets them into school a year early. All I can say is hang in there. There are a ton of us in the same boat. Lola Bunny Honeybee says, I'm a single mom in a high cost of living area, and I pay $600 a week for daycare, and it's more than my mortgage. It's awful. And then Teleporting Cat says, and yet the actual childcare workers are underpaid. Where does the money go? They can't have that much overhead. Prize Comment says, it's wild. I'm a certified teacher with a special ed credential. And after my daughter was born, I interviewed to work at a daycare. They wanted $400 a week for my kid to go, discounted rate for teachers. They only paid $13 an hour and had terrible benefits. I legit could not have paid my bills and daycare. But the owner that interviewed me told me all about her weekend getaway to another state and had her diamond the size of a junior mint on her ring. That was all the info I needed to reject the job offer. I legit don't know how people survive while paying child daycare fees. Sad Character says, all of these daycare chains are owned by private equity groups. Some a-holes in suits are making out like bandits while squeezing families and childcare workers for every dime that they can. Garden Adventure says, look, I'm not saying every daycare is like this, but a family member of mine owned a daycare and sold it after 5 years because they were literally losing money, couldn't afford to pay the teachers more, couldn't increase costs without losing families, and weren't even breaking even most of the time. I personally can't fathom how it's that expensive, but between salaries, benefits, facilities, food, equipment, maintenance, and upkeep, apparently it adds up. I thought the same way until I complained about childcare costs one day and she told me why she had to sell it. It was eye opening. This person says insurance on a daycare is massive. And this person says this it's the insurance that makes it so expensive. AI Flesh says if literally anyone sits down with a pen and paper, it makes complete sense that there's not a lot of money in daycares. My kid's daycare charges $15 an hour and has a ratio of one teacher to 5 kids. So that's 75 hours that needs to be stretched between teacher salary, benefits, rent, general maintenance, admin roles, insurance, etc. And that assumes you have full occupancy at all times. The ratio gets better the older the kids get, but essentially you're stuck with a business that doesn't have the ability to expand or scale, can only charge so much, and is taking on a lot of risk or liability. I know that for most families, $600 a week is a lot, but I'm not really sure what people are expecting for 40 hours of childcare. Edit. If we really want to make daycare more affordable, we need universal pre K. So I wanted to get to this screenshot before I wrapped it up. Ty Doll Wave says, right, for my youngest, it was paying a second mortgage. It was horrible. And then the OP says, wow, that's terrible. People deserve better than this, seriously. And then I wanted to get to this. Hooker in a yellow dress says, and yet our government keeps forcing people to have babies and offering zero help with actually having a family. Let me repeat that. And yet our government keeps forcing people to have babies and offering zero help with actually having a family. And then Chrysalis at the bottom says the new administration with Project 2025 also wants women to stay home and be stay at home moms instead of working. Oh, and no birth control. So I'm just using this to wrap all of this up because, like I said, the political is personal and the personal is political. Children cost money. Children don't even stay babies. We have to figure out how we're going to pay medical bills. We have to figure out how we're going to pay child care, how for the house or rent or whatever, for food and all of that. But also, the child care places have to stay in business. They have to pay all of those costs that that person before was listing out for us. At some point, if our government wants people to have babies, instead of subsidizing businesses, instead of being constantly at war, maybe we could try to find some money to help subsidize businesses, childcare, because those people need to make money and need to pay their employees, but also families need to be able to pay for that because people have to work in this economy. People have got to go to work. And you're not going to force people to have these babies because women will just continue to figure out ways to get on birth control, despite the fact that they're trying to outlaw ways of controlling our own reproductive system and all of that. So just to tie all of this up, how does it even work? It doesn't even make sense that we want new babies, but costs are so extreme. And it's just like, where are you going to get all of this money? How are you going to get money if you can't afford to put the kids in daycare? Like, none of this makes sense. So the people in government is like, if you want to get to A, that is people having more babies, nuclear family, all of that. If you want to get over there, you have to think about the steps to get us to that point. But they're not thinking. They just simply want to strip away women's rights and figure that that will help them get to their goal of having more babies in the nuclear family and all of that. Okay. Hopefully, I wrapped all that up. I do want to know what you think about all of this. Join the conversation. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.